Hello everyone and welcome back. My name is Mel, Wordy Stitches here on YouTube and on Instagram. So if you aren't following me on Instagram, you can find me there and follow me. This is my Flosstube, which is a YouTube channel mainly about cross stitch and embroidery and a few other sort of sewing and knitting and crochet type crafts, but today mostly cross stitch and a little bit of other embroidery. So if that's not your cup of tea, then maybe you're in the wrong corner of the internet, but if it is, then welcome. If you are new here, welcome, hello, it's lovely to have you. I have noticed a few more people following me just in the last little while, so I hope I haven't missed someone giving me a shout out. If someone gave me a shout out, I haven't figured out who. So if you came here because someone gave me a shout out, please let me know in the comments so I can say thank you to them. And welcome back if you have been here for a little while. It's lovely to have you back to sit and chat with about stitchy stuff. Okay, so today is Tuesday the 28th of February. Can't talk. That month would be February. Maybe I'm just horrified that it's the end of February today and the end of summer officially here in Australia, where we tend to do seasons by the calendar, not by the equinoxes and those sorts of things. But officially the end of summer. It's still been quite warm. It's not warm today. It's raining, but we'll see how the weather goes. Hopefully we're not going to have as cold a winter this year as we had last year, because that was not good. But anyway, we are here to talk about Flosstube, so let's talk about that. I think this is Flosstube number 14, and it's a couple of weeks since I did a Flosstube, but I had a little bit of time today, so I thought I would jump on and do one, because next weekend I have an online conference I'm doing all weekend, and then I have a writing deadline. I'm a writer at the end of March, so March could get a little bit all editing and revising all the time. So I thought I'd jump on, do one now, and then hopefully if it does turn out that I don't do one in March, at least I've done 2 in February, I think. So just going to talk about whips. I've got some finishes. I've even got some fully finished items, shock horror. A little bit about purchases, a little bit about plans, but yeah, nothing particularly out of the ordinary. So let's get going. I'm not sure this is going to be the longest Flosstube in the world, but let's see how long it takes. So let's talk about my whips. And I've just realized I don't have one of them with me. Hang on. Okay, I'm back. You always think you're organized for a Flosstube. I make notes, and then I always manage to get one thing. But all right, let's talk about whips. So I'm doing Whip Go this year. If you don't know what Whip Go is, it's by Jessie Marie Does Stuff, where you have like a bingo board, and at the start of the year you write down, well, if you have lots of whips, all your whips on the board. I don't tend to have 20, it's a 5x5 board, so 25 squares. I don't tend to have 25 whips on the go. I'm someone who prefers a smaller number, so I tend to put my bigger projects on a few times and then put a few free calls on. So my calls for February, I think it was 7 and 11. And I can't remember which number was which, but one of them was Dilemma. So this is Dilemma by LongDogSamplers. And this is where I got to. So I have finished the entire top row. So this sampler has 3 rows, so it's a 3x3 grid, and it's called Dilemma because she gives you like 12 or 16 of these little middle images to fit into the grid, and you have to pick which 9 you want. So that's my top 3. I'm stitching this on 36 count Antique White Belfast with a Silks for You silk. I think it's PR123, and just, you know, 1 strand over 2 threads. So that's Dilemma. So that's nice to have that a third done. It's only taken me a year to get that far, but we'll see how we go. We'll see how we go for the rest of the year. Sometimes I get in the mood for monochromatic stitching, and that's always a good one to reach for. Next whip, my other Whip Go call was In the Library by MojoStitches, which I started at the start of the year, or maybe Christmas, I can't remember. Anyway, not that long ago. Let me find the picture of what it will look like. So this is what it will look like when it's finished. So pretty. And it's stitched with Joanna from MojoStitches has a range of Cottage Garden Threads that she designed that go with this design. So that's what I'm stitching with. And I am pretty much halfway done. So I've done page 1 and I can't remember. So the first 2 pages this side, and I've just started over here. So I'm pretty happy with that. It's lots of fun to stitch. There are a lot of, it's variegated threads, but there are still a lot of colour changes, but that's what makes it look so pretty. So it's not the fastest stitch in the world, but I am enjoying it. So that is where I am at. Got a little bit of back stitching, but I'll do that at the end. So yeah, so that was my other whip go, and I think I'd sort of, yeah, this month I've basically done, so I've got 4 pages, but the top pages go to about there, and then the bottom pages are smaller, so I think I did the bottom page this month. So we'll see where we get to. So that is in the library. And then my other whip that I worked on this month is my temperature library. So this is Temperature Library by Dr. Christy. She's Christy's Corner Needle on Etsy and here on YouTube, I think. And it will look like this. Hang on. So I did one of these last year as well, so those of you who've been here since last year know that, but this is my 2023 one. And because I, stitch this as the months go, not surprisingly, I'm almost up to the end of February. I've just got one book to do there, and then I've got to sort out whether I want maybe another knick-knack here, but I think when I showed you last time, I hadn't done any knickknacks for January, so I put the little bunny in because it's the year of the rabbit. And then so far in February, the dinosaur with the heart was what Christy had charted, and I just thought that was pretty cute for Valentine's Day. Then I did this little ink pot and quill because I had a book signing during the month. I also finished writing a draft of my book, so I need to put something in for that. But that's where we're at. So tonight I will stitch the last book, and then we will be on to March. How are we? 2 months into the things. So I think someone commented on my last one, they wanted to know how my color thing works. So Christy charts these to be like a rainbow, but I've done both of mine in tonal, which is an idea I stole from someone else that I saw do it on Instagram at the start of 2022 when people were looking at their palettes. So last year I did sort of a bright one. So to do a tonal one, what I've done, I mean, I guess you could find 25 blues or something if you wanted to, but I sort of break them up into 4 lots of 5. So the pattern is charted for 20 colours for the book Rainbow. And this year I'd actually added white because this year the books have high temperatures and low temperatures. And because Melbourne's on the cooler scale, I figured, and I wanted to make my range a little bit smaller. So I added white for the very low temperatures because otherwise I'm going to have lots and lots of blue bands on my books in winter, I think. And it's going to be blue, a symphony of blue with not much else. So, yeah, so these are my colours. So basically blue is the coldest, then the greens are the next level, and then pinks, and then corals and peaches. And in each range I go from lightest is the coolest in that range to darkest, and then you go to lightest again. I just find that works quite well to give you reasonable variation. Last year was quite cold in Melbourne, and I didn't end up using sort of my hottest couple of colours. So this year when I redid the temperature range, which Christy explains how to do in the pattern, I sort of brought my temperature range down, or rather increased the temperature range that these warmer colours represent and that the very cooler colours represent, and tried to have some of the mid-range temperatures, which Melbourne often is, a bit more spread out. So we'll see. So far I'm getting reasonable variation. but yeah, once it turns cooler, it'll be interesting to see. Last year there was a lot of blue. I'm sure there will be a lot of blue again this year. There's a lot of blue and teal, but we'll see how it works out. At least I've got the variation of the highs and lows this year. So I'm stitching this with one thread on 36 count Toasted Mallow Linen by number 12 Stitch Co on Etsy, which is the same fabric as I stitched my last year's piece on. It's the same fabric that I'm doing in the library on. It's just a nice neutral. And last year I did 2, but it got a bit tight, so I thought this year, because I've got the low temperatures to do as well, I thought I'd try one thread, and I quite like it. Like, it comes out a little bit paler, but my colours this year are a bit paler anyway, but it's still giving good coverage, so I like how it looks. So those are my whips that are still in progress. I did throw in a couple of other actual starts and finishes during the month, just to be a bit random. You've got to go with these urges when they occur, I say. So let's see. So I'll show you the first one. So I bought a grab bag of linen from Nicola at number 12 Stitch Co. Earlier in the year. Every so often she puts like little grab bags of small pieces, and in it was this 40 count browny chocolatey colour. I'm not really a chocolatey brown girl, but I thought, and it's 40 count, and I haven't stitched on 40 count before, so I thought, okay, if I'm going to do this, I need something fairly small and simple. So I was looking around at, you know, pin cushions and things, and I ended up buying, so it's one of my purchases for the month. So this is Birds of a Feather, so it's for small pin cushions or designs by Modern Folk Embroidery. Looks like that, designed to be monochromatic, which is what I wanted. So I decided to do a challenge and stitch something in 40 count. So this is what I did. This is just the smallest one from that one, and the blue is Pacific by Roxy Floss Co. Just thought the sort of light bluey, greeny grey blue would look nice on the brown, and it does. It does. So I did discover I can just about see 40 count without magnification, but it did make my eyes kind of tired. So I have bought a clip-on magnifier now. So when I use up the rest of the piece, and any other 40 count I might acquire, I will use magnification to save the poor old eyes. I do have a magnifying on my big lamp that I use, but because it's quite big and you've got to angle it around, it's one of those gooseneck things, I just thought I'll get the clip-on one and use that with my stand when I want to do 40 count. So that's one start and finish. And then the other start and finish, which I just did on the weekend because I just got a mad whim to do something not cross-stitch. So now I quite like slow stitching, and I do a little bit of other sorts of embroidery. And sometime last year, I think, it may have even been 2021, I don't know, but I'm in a slow stitching Facebook group, and someone had posted about, oh, where do you find slow stitching kits? And slow stitching is basically whatever you want. It's kind of meditative, and you can use scraps, and you can do whatever you want. And someone was asking for, has anyone seen any slow stitching kits? And I thought, oh, well, that's interesting. I hadn't thought about that. So I was Googling, and I found a kit by ArtFIberStitch, fiber spelt F-I-B-E-R, so the American way, not the Australian way, but I believe she's an Aussie. She's either an Aussie or a Kiwi. So on Etsy, and she had some kits, and I saw which were kind of like fabric manipulation with just some very basic embroidery, and they just looked really nice. So I bought one of the kits last year, and on Sunday I sat down and did it. And so this is it. Sorry, glass, so it's a bit reflecty. There you go. So basically she gives you the dyed fabrics. So you get the blue piece, a yellowy ochre piece, the two white pieces. And so it's a very fine sort of gauzy linen, I guess. And so when you manipulate with your finger, you can pull and push it, and like the threads come apart, so, and you can cut it to make holes and things. So, you know, that started off as just a strip, so you play with it and fray it and snip it a bit to make it sort of, you know, it's vaguely representational art, I guess, slightly abstract art. So it looks real, they look better. Close up you go, oh, that's some interesting embroidery, and then from back you go, oh, look, that's a nice beach scene. And then, yeah, so then you just add running stitches and a few French knots and things to embellish as you see fit. So I did that, and then I was at Spotlight yesterday and they had 30% off frames. So I grabbed the frame. So in the kit you get all the materials and the threads, a couple of needles, and she gives you a backing board and this mat board to fit an 8x10 frame. So I bought a, what is it, 20 by 25 centimeter frame, and the mat board and the backing board was slightly big, but I just trimmed them down with ye old Stanley knife and a cutting mat and a quilt ruler. So it all fits. So there you go, something in a frame. So that's two starts and finishes in a month. And I must have been in a bit of a finishing mood this month because I did actually fully finish a couple of other things. So let's not all faint, and don't expect this every month, but let me show you. So this is my Australian pink robin. So I used a pattern from, oh, I forget. It's called Birds of a Feather, and if you go back in the YouTubes or on my Instagram, you'll find it. So it was originally an American robin sort of sitting with holly, but in Australia we have these cool pink robins. So I just did a colour conversion and then made the holly basically look like wattle. So that's that. And I sort of had it roughly in this round frame for a while, and I just, you know, got organised and did the stretching and sewed the felt on the back. So that's done. So I'm kind of, my theory is I'm going to end up with a bird wall because I stitch lots of birds, so doing that. And then I also framed Chubby Bird by Jeanette Douglas, which I stitched last year, I think. That's just done with Cottage Garden Threads from my stash, I believe, rather than the called for. But that's a really cute little pattern. So that's just in year old hoop with felt backing again. And then I framed Goth Chicken, which I finished, when did I finish this? January? Yeah, I must have finished it in January. Anyway, I thought he needed to have a frame. So I bought this. I was looking, yeah, because last Flosstube I said I was looking for a 6" by 6", can't talk, 6" by 6" frame. And I happened to be in Kmart and saw that they had 6" by 6" frames, so I grabbed a black one. And I, like, cause it's not an expensive frame, it's quite narrow, but this is linen, so he just about fits in with the glass out. You know, people say different things about glass on needlework, so I thought he will survive without glass, and I will just dust him occasionally. So that one, and then I grabbed a white frame at the same time. So so this is my little bookworm pattern that I just did. I don't know if it was last year or the year before, just to entertain myself. And so I thought, oh well, you know, I bought the white frame at the same time. I thought, well, that'll fit nicely in there. And then the thing that I didn't really factor in is that this is on Aida. You know, Aida is a lot thicker than linen. So as you can see, it just about fits in, but not with the backing board. So I might get a deeper frame and save this one for linen. So that may mean I need to relace it if the board that the new frame comes with is slightly different, but that's all right. But look, laced and everything. Yes, so these skinny Kmart frames, if you're an Aussie, you're not going to fit Aida in and still be able to, I guess you could just put paper or something over and do a string from side to side. But I'll grab another frame and save this one for a little linen project. But that's all right. So there you go. That's 5 fully finished objects. It's probably like doubled my amount of fully finished cross-stitch objects that I have done since I restarted cross-stitching 3 years ago. So well done me. All right, what is next? So purchases. So I bought the Birds of a Feather pattern. And so that one's interesting. So that little blue Modern Folk embroidery one is interesting because it would go on my bird wall, but I also have this thing where, you know, people have their red sampler walls, and I'm just not really a red girl. I like pink and berry pinks and things, but I'm not a big red lover. So I always joke that I'll do a blue sampler wall. And actually on MojoStitches last video, she had a red sampler, and I said, I feel like I'm a bad cross stitcher because I just don't like red and I want to do a blue sampler wall. So my birds of a feather could also fit on a blue sampler wall. So one day we'll see. So I'm sort of looking at, I quite like Quaker samplers and other little smaller samplers because Dilemma is clearly blue. So that would be a feature sampler for a blue sampler wall. So we'll just have to see what we come up with. But in terms of Nashville, I've only pre-ordered one pattern, so that was very restrained of me. So I did end up pre-ordering Kindred Spirits by teresakogutKathy because I just like these two historical ladies who are clearly good friends and share a love of peacocks. I assume they're peacocks, they could be pheasants. So yeah, so I've pre-ordered this one. I suspect I may pink up the red dress a little bit. And I don't know if I would do the dark bit above the arch. We'll see. This is probably heresy for people who love teresakogutKathy. But I'm a bit of a pattern alterer and colour changer. So I say, do what makes you happy. So we'll see how I feel. But I think, you know, I'd maybe go a bit more berry pink for instead of the reds. And then see how I feel about stitching a shed ton of, I think it's actually, I don't know if it's black or navy, but maybe navy. Yeah. But Kindred Spirits, I mean, I'm an Anne of Green Gables fan. My nana and my mum got me reading Anne of Green Gables quite young, and I've actually got my mum's set of Anne of Green Gables hardbacks, which she was given when she was a teenager. So that's quite some time ago. They're quite fragile now, so I do have other copies that I read when I get the urge to reread Anne of Green Gables. So yes, I couldn't really resist that one. Historical ladies, besties, and an Anne of Green Gables quote. So looking forward to that arriving sometime next month, I guess. I ordered a couple of threads for a few things to come with that because you can't just pay postage for one chart. So that will be my pre-orders. I mean, there's lots of gorgeous patterns, but I am trying to like finish some things and work through my whip go board and actually stitch some of the stuff I've already bought before I go adding too many more patterns, and particularly big patterns. Like I did really like the Beloved sampler, which I think I probably showed last time with Running with Needles and Scissors and the gorgeous flowers and birds in the middle. But that's quite a big project. Even if you just did the middle bit, that would be quite a big project. So I think I need to finish at least in the library and a couple of other things that I've got kitted up before I move on to that. So, and I've got Raven Queen just started now too. So that is another huge project. So we're trying to be sensible. I think I talked about last time that I hadn't done many hexies this year. I've made a few more hexie flowers. So I think I'm now up to 17. So I've made 3 more. So that's about a third, nearly a third, I think. I think it's 56. So 18 and a half, 19 is a third of 56 if my brain can do maths. Yeah, so hexies are underway again. Hexies are actually good for me to do when I'm listening to a Zoom call or something like that, where I don't actually have to be on screen and talking. Webinars, those sorts of things. I can listen and stitch a bit and take notes and stitch a bit because you don't have to count like you do with cross stitch. So hopefully I can make all the flowers this year and then we start putting them together and things like that. But let's see how that goes. All right, so purchases. Okay, we're at 21 minutes. That's not so bad. What's next? Pattern crushes. Everyone's looking at market things. I don't know if all of these are market things. I don't think they are. But, you know, I just say stuff on Instagram when it floats across my screen and go, oh, that's pretty. So what have I saved this time? So while I was hunting for samplers, I saw this one pop up on Instagram. So this is by Hannah Stitching. I think it's called Inordinately Fond, because there's a quote about the creator being inordinately fond of beetles because there's so many species of beetles. So it's a Quaker beetle sampler, which I thought was kind of cool. And look, it's done in a blue, so I could do it in a blue. I have a blue sampler wall. So I liked that one. I thought that was cute. I think she's only got a few patterns, so she's relatively new. And then while we're on the subject of bugs, I don't think I showed this one last time. So this butterfly moth, not sure. Which I really like colours. So this by the Wishing Thorn. I can't remember what it's called. But by the Wishing Thorn. I think she has another one as well. But I thought I'm going to do the HL's moth. Is that Kathy Barrick? I think it's Kathy Barrick. Which is sort of pinks and browns. I thought it might be fun to have another butterfly moth pattern to go with that. Maybe I have bug wall as well. Bugs, birds, and blue. I don't have that many blank walls in my house, so we'll have to be judicious about how we do this. We'll just have to swap things in and out. But I thought he was cute, or she. I like aquas and teals, so that is right up my alley. And then this one, which I think is a market release, yes, so this is by Ingleside Imaginariam. I think it's called Millie Melanita. And I just like how cute that possum looks, sitting in the watermelon, living her best life. And we have possums in Australia, but they're not like American possums. Our possums are cuter. And we have big ones, which are the brush tails, and we have teeny tiny ringtails, but the brush tails are the ones that are quite common in the suburbs, and they get into people's roofs and make messes and stuff, but they are living their possum lives, and we came into their territory, so one just has to live with them, I think. But I just thought she was cute in her watermelon, being happy. And possums are actually really cool. Even the American ones are really cool, so be nice to possums, give them some watermelon. So that's, yes, Ingleside Imaginariam. Another one on the one day in this other life I have where I have nothing but time to stitch. Okay, so let's talk about plans. So the Whip Go calls this month are 2 and 22, I think. So 2 for me is in the library again, which is good. So that's the 3rd month in a row. So we'll see. I would like to finish that this month. Well, I don't know how feasible that is. And then my 22 though is free choice small, so that might make that easier because I can pick something little that's not going to take much stitching, excuse me, and do that. And what I thought I might do is pick something from these Christiane Dahlbeck Fingerhut books. Christiane Dahlbeck, I think is German, and I stumbled across her stuff on Instagram early last year, I think, and I just really like her. Like, they're just that kind of calm, clean, pretty, sort of Scandinavian. Just does these beautifully staged stuff. Bunnies. So this book is spring, so it's got Easter stuff and things. But it's just all clean and pretty and kind of Scandi and lovely. So I thought, and I bought a couple of her books from Casa Sanina, which is the only place I can get them from in Australia, and the shipping is quite expensive to here. So even though I would like more of them, I have only bought a few so far. But I thought I might do a little one. I thought I might do these pink daisies, because I just like that. I've got some other floral books too, because I really like floral cross stitches. So I need to start stitching some of them. But I thought I might do those because it's only about 50 by 70, and really most of that space is going to be blank space. So, and I just thought it was pretty. So I think that's probably my small, unless I get a wild hair to do something else. I had most of the threads, so I got the couple I was missing when I went to Spotlight yesterday. Hence the trip to Spotlight. So those are my plans. I do have one other thing that I'm kind of planning in my back of my head while I've been finishing off stuff and thinking about all the finishes I have sitting in my finished bag waiting to be framed, and again, not having enough room on my walls to put everything in frames, and probably not enough time to get everything, especially all the big stuff which you might like to get professionally framed rather than doing it yourself, all of that framed. So I've sort of been thinking about some ways that other people do smalls. Again, I don't want to have heaps of pillow finishes and things because I just don't have the room to have bowls full of pillow finishes, and I'm not a big swap your decor around all the time for seasonal stuff and things. So I've just been thinking about ways you can finish some of those things and store them so that they can be looked at, etc. So it's been a collision of a couple of concepts that from different people from different places, and I'll talk about it in more detail next Flosstube because I've ordered something that I think should work to get me started. But we'll have to see. We'll have to see how it goes. So I'll talk a bit more about my cunning plan for that next time. But I think that otherwise, that is me done. So I'll keep stitching on in the library and my temperature bookcase, and I'll do a small. Possibly I will do something else. If I finish in the library, I guess I will start something else. But I don't know yet what that bit is. I've got a few other sort of medium-sized things like that kitted up. I've got HL's Moth. I've got the threads for that and fabric. But we'll see. There are other things that are on my whip go board, or whether I do something that's not on my whip go board and go hog crazy. Who knows? But that is me. I hope you are having a lovely February and have a good first few weeks of March. Hopefully I will try and get back again in March. We'll just have to see how that goes. I'm off to get my fifth booster this afternoon. So hopefully that will all go smoothly. I haven't had much of an issue with any of the other ones, so we'll just have to see. But yeah, it's June since I'd had a booster, so it's about time, I think. And yeah, life continues. I'll be doing lots of editing and writing, and yes, online conference next weekend, which will always be fun because online writing conferences run mainly on US time, which means I stay awake for some of the sessions and then watch some of it recorded afterwards, and I have to live a weird sort of nocturnal life, and because I'm editing I can't get too nocturnal, so we'll just see how we go. But maybe there'll be some more hexies soon while I'm listening to people talk about writing and publishing. But that's me. Yes, I shall leave you there. Thank you again for joining me to talk about stitching. And if you enjoyed this, you know, like, subscribe, do all the YouTubey things that make YouTube happy, and I will see you next time. Okay, bye.